Always fun to get Cardinal alumni out here at the Insider Desk in left field, and this guy has one of the all-time great stories in the history of the game. It's Rick Ankiel. Rick, let's start off at the moment that I think so many Cardinal fans remember, 2007, your Major League rebirth, second debut, however you want to term it, but just take us through that moment, that home run out right field here at Busch.
To the trees! No, what an incredible ride and journey and I, if I would have sat down and I'm going to write a movie script, I couldn't have wrote it any better. To come in, the emotions of that day, even getting here and back to the clubhouse, the high fives, the hugs, the welcome back. Joe Patini at the time had number 24. I called Rip Rowan, who was our clubhouse manager that day, when they said they were calling me up, and I said, hey, can I have 24? And he said, well, Joe Patini's wearing that. I said, all right, well, then I don't care, just as long as my name's on the jersey, it's fine. Got to the clubhouse, seen everybody, the joys, go to my locker, there's number 24. So Joe gave me the number, and I feel like that just started the tone. Then as the game goes, I end up hitting that home run, and I remember running around the bases. And as I was rounding first, getting to second, I remember saying to myself, oh my God, that just happened. Like, this is real, it happened. And it's one of those things I've thought about it a lot, but you really can't put it into words to be fair. And it's an epic moment in my life for sure.
And in the order, no hits.
Ankiel out to deep right field. Has a chance to leave the ballpark. It's gone! A 3-run shot for Rick Ankiel back in the major leagues. Remarkable. 5-0 St. Louis. Remarkable.
One of my favorite things about that moment, it's one of two times I can remember that Tony La Russa really smiled and kind of broke character in the dugout. 2011 when they won the World Series, and then that moment for you. I know he's an important guy in your life. Just what was it like to share that moment with him?
It was almost surreal. I'm rounding the bases, and now I get to Jose Oquendo, who's at third, and it's the high five. I almost wish, when I look back at it, I wish that I would have smiled more, or just let everyone know how I was feeling. But it just, I don't know. It was like not that I was trying to be businesslike, but it just happens fast, right? And it's not like you sit at home the night before and go, what am I going to do if I hit a home run, right? You don't, and or I didn't. And I don't know. I wish I would have been more excited, but to share with everyone, it was Tony, it was all the guys who knew what I went through to get to that moment, right? It felt like we all celebrated it together. And there's times just where you can feel their emotion, where it was real, it was passionate, it was everything that you would want us to be.
Did you expect the fan reaction? I mean, we have the best fans in baseball. We know they knew your story. It's a great story. But then to take it in and drink in that moment, was it more or less the same? I mean, how do you even quantify that?
It was more. It was incredible. I could feel the ground shaking. I could feel the stadium shaking. The Dodgers had already got to town for the next series. One of their players, heard this years after the game, said, I was in the hotel, and we heard this loud eruption. He's like, I could hear it inside of our hotel was you hitting the home run and the fans going crazy. And said they could hear it across the street in the hotel like it was, in the next room over. So thank you, fans, for that, because it was the most incredible thing ever.
Of course, you came up in 1999, the late 90s, as a 19-year-old, as a pitcher. What was the most difficult part of being a teenager in the big leagues? I mean, it's hard to wrap your head around that.
Legally not being able to walk into a bar? No. Honestly, at the time, I feel like I didn't really think about it like that because all my dreams are coming true, right? I guess the only difficult part was really having nobody who's on the same, like hanging out with. So Matt Morris was 26 and everybody else was 30 years old or above. I would say that's the only, was the only difficult part. And that wasn't even difficult. All your dreams are coming true. So it was like,
Flash forward to when you're in the outfield, almost a decade later, and you've got that great arm, which a lot of guys have come through the organization that have a great arm in the outfield. How much of that had to do with you being a pitcher, and how much had to do with what you did between when you quit pitching and moved to the outfield? We think about the play in Colorado, of course.
Yeah, You know what? I was blessed with a great arm. And a lot of it was just hard work. That's one thing, obviously, after going through the throwing issues, once I became the outfielder, even when I was going through the throwing issues, weirdly, once a guy got past 100 feet, it didn't matter. I could just throw it where I wanted to still. And it was just a chance for me to prove, that the arm was still a weapon for me, the accuracy, everything else. And I worked really hard on it, and, the results show.
You're part of the telecast on Bally Sports Midwest right now. I was laughing the other night because a guy slipped a slider in on somebody, and the hitter didn't swing, and you said to Dan, I was just thinking about how far I would have hit that. Do you watch the game now as a pitcher or a hitter? Because we see analysts, and they kind of look at the game from the position they played. You have this unique viewpoint.
I look at it from both. That's everybody's going to watch it on how they see things, right? Well, that's how I see things. So there's times where I'm thinking like the pitcher, and there's times I'm thinking like the hitter. Maybe I'm thinking like both. It really just depends on the moment of what it is that I'm interested in.
Do you think that, we see Shohei Ohtani now, do you think that it's possible for somebody to play both those positions in the big leagues more regularly in the future?
I do, because I think you're seeing that it could be done and how beneficial it could be, especially, let's just pretend that theoretically the Angels got into the playoffs, and you go back and you watch the last 4 or 5 years of the playoffs and how many times you get into a bullpen game. Now think about, I got a right fielder or some, wherever position he's going to play that could come in and pitch and go back to that position, and you have another arm. I mean, that could have won. It could win you a series, win you a game, win you the World Series. One thing that I think is so special about Shohei is, yeah, people might be able to do this in the future, but are you going to have another guy who could win the Cy Young and win the batting title? Yeah, I don't know, but he can, and he could.
He's a bona fide star in both phases of the game. There is no doubt. In addition to your work as an analyst playing, you've also spent some time kind of, I guess, as a mental skills coach within some organizations. What do you hope when you talk to a guy, and now you're not in that particular role, but what do you hope to impart to young guys about the mental side of the game of baseball?
Any way you can help, you want to help. You want to give back. I feel like your role as a professional pro athlete has done it before, is to give back. All the things that I learned along the way, that I was taught along the way, whether it was Darryl Kyle or Jim Edmonds, giving you some advice, and it probably came down the line from players that they played with, older players. Any way you can help, I feel like it's your duty to do it, right? It's guys appreciate it. There's situations you've been through before, and you'll always hear young players say, hey, man, they helped me through that, or I'm in a slump, and they were teaching me how to go about it. And I just feel like I don't know if there's a hope that I have other than why not help? It feels good.
You made the big leagues twice. Most people would just dream of making it once. Is that kind of a badge of honor for you? I'm sure there were moments that were very difficult going through it, but to have that as your story now, what's that mean to you?
A lot, because you can't do it without hard work. And, when I look back at everything that I accomplished, that's one of the things that I'm the most proud of, is the work that went into it, how hard I went after it. And as you said, badge of honor, absolutely. I'll jokingly say it with guys when, they're making a joke about making it once. I'm like, dude, I made it twice at 2 different positions. I don't want to hear it. So, yeah, it's fun.
He's one of the more fun stories in the history of the game of baseball. He's Rick Ankiel. Of course, you can see him on Bally Sports Midwest. He's here signing as we speak as part of a Bud Bash, Cardinals.com/Bud Bash to see the 2022 schedule. That's all for right now here at the Insider Desk in left field.